voyage filled with hope and pride in a single night that changed history forever. Titanic, its bad voyage and the sinking of it. Created by Daniel Funstate's Travel. Titanic began construction on March 31st, 1909 and finished construction in April 2nd, 1912 and was launched in 1911. 883 feet long or 269 meters, width 92 feet. Its height 175 feet. April 10, 1912, Titanic begins its voyage. People were at the crowd shouting, and its captain was ready for the Titanic. It was the world's biggest liner. Its voyage. And then Titanic set sail from Southampton, and here is the grand staircase, and now it's first class. They had access to almost everything in the ship. And here's the Titanic's pool. And first class, there are beds and more stuff, as you can see. And then here is second class. Second class lived a familiar life to us. First class, and they still had access to the gymnasium. And here's third class. They lived really poor. And Titanic's captain was Edward John Smith. He lived from 1850 to 1912. And here are the boiler rooms. The Titanic's boiler rooms, comprising 6 main compartments, housed 29 massive coal fires that generated steam. The heat in the boilers was 120 Fahrenheit plus, and there were 159 furnaces in total. And now this is the cargo room of the Titanic. And here is the bow of the ship. And the stern of the ship with the England flag. And here is the captain's quarters and the wheelhouse. One day on April 14th, 1912 wouldn't be the same ever again. People were relaxing, sitting, enjoying their day, writing letters that they had a great time on the Titanic. 11:39 p.m. And the Titanic hits the iceberg, 12 a.m. The Titanic was sinking. People, third class, were locked in. But for what they were locked in? Makes no sense, right? They wanted children and women from first and second class to go first on the lifeboats. But most of third class died and drowned. People were panicking. Some just jumped off to death on the -2 degrees Fahrenheit water. And right now I want to tell you a story about the Titanic, about why it was sinking, and some more facts. Where did Titanic go and what was its stops? It went from Belfast. It was constructed in Belfast. It went to Southampton, then stopped at Cherbourg, then Queenstown. Then it had iceberg warnings, and then it sunk. Why were the lookouts unable to spot the iceberg in time? That's an interesting question. One of them actually forgot the key on the dock in Southampton, And there were the binoculars, and if they had no key, they couldn't open it, and that's why. 3. What other thing sunk Titanic and who did it? Not too long ago, scientists actually found out that this hole is not like that an iceberg hit it. If it did, it would be 320 feet, and it might have been a bomb. 1:30 a.m. and the Titanic was even more sinking. It was tilting and tilting, and now the bow started to flood, and there was more and more chaos, more and more lifeboats, more and more deaths. Titanic's lifeboats, there was only 20 of them. That was only for the half of the ship, when the Titanic was carrying 2,200 passengers. Another short story, Titanic's compartments. It had 16 compartments, and it could withstand if four of its compartments would flood, but 5 of it flooded, and it started to sink. But a good thing is that they were watertight, and they could lock doors in time, so the water could move on slowly. That's why it sank for 2 hours and 20 minutes. 2 a.m. The Titanic was tilting so hard that so many people fell off, and its funnels were collapsing. And now 2:19 a.m. the ship breaks in half, and now it's the end. And here is how the Titanic sank. It was a really tragic story. Now funnels were collapsing, and now it broke apart and sunk. Many people freezed and died because of hypothermia in the water, and that's what happened. 4 a.m. RMS Carpathia rescues RMS Titanic survivors. RMS stands for Royal Mail Ship. Many lifeboats arrived, and Carpathia was one of the first ships to actually receive Titanic's Morse code. 3 days later, New York. Carpathia arrived in New York on April 18, 1912. And only 700 had survived that day, and 1,500 people had died. People couldn't forget about it until 1912 had actually passed, and they were just so sad that that tragic story, the biggest ocean liner, had sank, because it was just pretty tragic. Today you can visit some museums, and I had been in this one. As you can see over here, this is the museum in Branson, and you can see the ones who died, and another museum in England. Titanic images in this video. Titanic wouldn't be the same ever again.